Okay, so we're going to start in just a minute or two. I want to give everyone a chance to come on board. The only prop that I'm going to be using tonight is a blanket. So if you have a blanket, I recommend grabbing one. So what I have here is a blanket that I've folded, and now I'm rolling it from short end to short end. It doesn't have to be like a yoga blanket. This isn't a yoga blanket per se, but something that you can kind of make a soft roll out of. I will also be using my yoga mat. For a lot of the movements we're doing tonight, actually, you don't even really need a yoga mat. So we're going to be exploring some movements on the floor, some movements seated, kneeling, and upright. The mat is certainly a nice place in which to practice, as we all know, because it'll provide some padding, and if anything, just sort of a home base for you. We will be doing some stuff on our knees as well. So if it's important for you to pad up your knees, or even if you have carpeting to practice on tonight, that'll work out quite well. Okay, beautiful. Well, I'm happy to have the opportunity to practice with all of you. It's rare that I get to practice with people from all over the world live in my own living room. So welcome to the new era of teaching, and welcome to class. So the theme of today's class is uprising. In our practice, there's lots of opportunities for us to rise up, quite literally, in the movements that we practice. The trajectory of our practice often sees us moving from the floor incrementally to sort of an apex or a peak, and then kind of the return back to the earth, Shavasana. And certainly the theme of the day, the theme of the season, is one of new beginnings. And we're all acclimating to this sort of quote unquote new normal that we're all experiencing, and it might not feel like a new beginning. In fact, it might feel a bit more like a compression, or sort of a being packed down, or the hindrance of freedom. And oftentimes in our lives, it's when our freedoms are hindered that we have the opportunity to cultivate the power necessary to expand and to start anew. So I wanted to read a quote for you. This, as many of the most brilliant things I see these days just sort of popped across my social media feed today, but it really stood out. It says, "In order for the flower to reach the sun, it must pass through the deep darkness of the dirt." So we might be currently seeds planted in the dirt right now, with a lot of darkness around us, or not. Don't want to assume that that's all of our experience. Oh, hi, Leslie. Darla, beautiful. But it really is that fervor, that inner light, that knowingness that the sun is beyond the boundaries of the soil, that allows and encourages the seed to develop the strength necessary to break loose and to rise up. In our subtler practices, we have this invitation to acknowledge the sort of confidence, the power, the victory of rising up, embodied through the pranayama practice of Ujjayi. In fact, Ujjayi translates as U, or uprising, or moving upwards, and Jayi, or a victory. So the pranayama that is often practice and very familiar to us that do lots of yoga is a pranayama practice that encourages that similar type of sort of emergence of power. And we practice Ujjayi actually by packing ourselves down, by narrowing the passageway through which air and breath and life force can move. And it's when we narrow that passageway that the breath starts to develop the strength necessary to not only tone and fortify us, to stabilize us, but also to allow us to grow. So we'll play with those themes today. We're quite literally going to start by packing ourselves down into the earth, and we'll incrementally rise up, so to speak. Just a note, I often, when I teach courses on sequencing for teachers, I encourage teachers and yoga practitioners to begin their practice sort of upright, because it can lend to a feeling of expansiveness. I want us to actually begin and stay for a while quite prone and quite close to the earth. And if that starts to develop in you a sense of being sort of stuck or bound or let's say kind of held down, so to speak, let that restlessness build within you, because that's ultimately what we're going to use to shine bright and to radiate and to rise up. Okay, thank you guys so much for being here today. So we're going to begin in a prone position. As you can see, I'm quite, well, maybe you can't see it, but if you know me, you know that I'm quite tall, and you won't likely see my whole body once we rise up. So I'll be my own producer today, managing camera angles and whatnot. But for now, let's start on our belly. And bring your hands in front of you, place your palms one on top of the other, and just rest your forehead on the back of your hands. And sometimes it's useful to kind of move around a little bit before you settle. But imagine you are that seed sort of settling and packing yourself down into the deep darkness of the soil. And once you're planted, allow yourself to settle. Let the soil, the earth, hold you. And feel as you start to awaken your breath, how your body interfaces with the floor as you breathe in, and how you sort of settle and yield into gravity, into the earth as you breathe out. At the front of your body, somewhat hindered here, the back of your body can expand. Let your breath be easy and somewhat natural for these first few moments. Relax your shoulders, relax your elbows. If that means that your shoulders creep up a little bit, that's okay. And as you rest your forehead, third eye point, and back of your hands, so too relax your mind. Let your brain be heavy. And we'll start to cultivate a very light ujjayi. Ujjayi that reminds us that we have the power to grow, to rise up, and ultimately to bloom in our pursuit of the light. Ujjayi is created by toning the muscles, the base of your throat, and narrow your vocal cords slightly. So almost like a pressure cooker, your breath is given a little friction that you can use to slow down your breathing, but also to empower your breath. The sound of Ujjayi reminds you of your power and your capacity to be self-reliant to your own emergence and growth. So we're going to begin with some movement exploration here, some somatic movement. Somatic movements are meant to be gentle and really offered more as an exploration of choice, different choices we can use to organize the pathways of force throughout our body and to inhabit and embody ourselves. So I'm going to begin with your right hand on top of your left. Actually learned these movements from my good friend Trina Altman, who I believe will be teaching a class on here next week. So shout out to Trina. So with your right hand on top of your left, your forehead on top of your hands, you're going to begin just by lifting your right elbow off the floor and setting it back down. Okay, so it's a very gentle movement, and as you lift your elbow, your wrist will bend, and then your elbow comes back down. And you are welcome to do this in concert with your breath. Perhaps inhale floats your elbow up. The exhale brings it down. And just notice how your body organizes this movement. So as your elbow lifts, you might imagine it sort of pressing through the dense soil. There's some imagined resistance there. Perhaps you can use that leverage to bring more of your upper back online. Maybe even lift a little bit of your right chest up as you lift your elbow. Of course, you can try this with a reversed relationship to your breath as well. The exhale lifts you up and the inhale brings you down. Do just one more. And then set your elbow down, rest. I notice when I do that my opposite glute likes to fire as well. Not a bad thing, just something to pay attention to. And then we'll switch. You can place your other hand on top. Your legs relax, your belly relax, and just lift and lower your left elbow. And feel where the power comes from to generate this force, to create this movement. Notice if your shoulder blade tends to move up towards your ear as you lift your elbow, or if it likes to move down and away from your ear as you lift, that might change the trajectory of where your elbow goes. Sometimes by noticing what the pattern is, we can choose a different pattern and see what that feels like. A couple more. And then settle down. As you rest, you might feel a bit more inclined to turn your head to one side or the other. And we're going to go back with the right hand on top. So these subtle movements will ultimately kind of wind and unwind us into some potentially more extravagant shapes, but for now we'll start slow. Now this next move is going to be a lifting of your head and of your right hand. So keep the back of your hand on your forehead and lift your head up as if you were going to just look forward slightly and place your hand back down. So I'm lifting and lowering. And while the movement might be simple, there's different ways that I could organize this movement. So it's like I'm looking towards my mat and then looking at the space in front of my mat. I could lift up by pushing my left arm into the floor, kind of use this rebound effect on the earth to leverage me up. I could also lift more by pulling my right elbow and the back of my head up, which is going to create a different sort of force. Of course, I could use a combination of those forces. Could do so by inhaling to come up, exhaling to come down, or vice versa. So just explore a little bit. And then come down and rest. If you find yourself starting to get a little restless to get up off the floor, channel that restlessness back inward. So that same restlessness is what gets us up off the floor to begin our movement journey in life. Our developmental movement is informed by our desire to get up and explore ourselves and our environment. Switch sides. And again, lift and lower. A combination of pulling and pushing. This is nice too because the tendency can sometimes be to yank from your neck to move into back bends. And here, with our hand connected to our head, being asked to use more of our upper back, at least for the pulling aspect, and even the right side of our chest for the push. So our spine is doing a somewhat symmetrical action, but our limbs, sort of the force coupling, is kind of asymmetrical in the body. One or two more. And come down and rest. Again, you can turn your head to one side or the other. And let's switch again. Right hand on top, forehead on your hands. And now we're going to combine extension with rotation. So you can do these as coupled movements. You can do one and then the other. Again, you have options. So lift your head up, and then this time turn your chest to the right. Lift your elbow up like you're peeking under your right armpit, and then come back down. So again, you can organize this by pulling your elbow up. You can organize this more by pushing your left arm down. I feel quite a significant squeeze to the left side of my pelvis when I lift and lower. So it just gives me information about how these movements are connected. You might even feel like your legs want to float up a little bit. Your left arm is sort of like the roots that the seed grows so that it can stem and bloom upwards on the right side. One more time. And rest. And switch. Take your other hand on top. Take a moment, relax your shoulders. And then begin. So it's a lift and a turn to the left and back down. So you could go up and then rotate. You could sort of start the rotation and then lift up to put some bit of side bend in the movement. It could be one continuous movement. And when you organize, it might be that you lift from your elbow, or maybe you just lift from the intention to look to the left and look up. So sometimes using our eyes to direct our movement gives us a more efficient synthesis of our whole self. One more time. And come down. Okay, rest your head to one side if you'd like. You can move your pelvis side to side. We're going to start to progress these movements and bring ourselves up off the floor incrementally. So now, bring your forehead on the back of your hands. Either hand can be on top. Press your tailbone down into the floor so that the back of your pelvis and the front of your abdomen engage. And then this time, we're not going to so much push, but we're going to just use the pull. So lift your elbows up, and then lift your head up, lift your chest up, and then bring it back down. Let's try this on an exhale. So as you exhale, tone your belly and lift, and then come back down. Exhale, lift, and come back down. This time, exhale, lift up. Now stay up and bend your elbows towards the sides of your waist like you were doing a pull-up. Squeeze your elbows, then bring your hands back to your forehead and lower. Do that twice more. Lift, bend your elbows, pull, hands to forehead, come back down. Last time, lift up, bend your elbows, pull. Now place your hands on the floor beside your chest. You're going to press your hands away from each other like you could peel, or rather stretch your mat wider, lift your chest up, press your tailbone down, and then roll yourself all the way down and rest. If you start to feel, with everything we're doing today, it's going to be somewhat progressive, and I can't see all of you, so I don't know your practice or what's possible in your body. Please, as always, play with the boundary of what's possible for you, but let these movements be nourishing. So if you find yourself needing to roll to the side or press yourself up and do something else, you're more than welcome to. Now we're going to try coming up with that compressive force, or that pushing force. So bring your hands back onto forehead onto your hands. Breathe in. And as you breathe out, push down with your elbows and lift yourself up. And maybe you can lift your belly a little higher this time. And then come down. Again, push down and lift up. And then come back down. Again, push and lift. And come down. Last time, push into your elbows, come up. And now swivel your hands forward so you're in sort of a Sphinx pose. And in this Sphinx, your elbows can be a bit in front of your shoulders, so you don't have to be totally stacked. We're going to do a little bit of spinal rolling here and see if we can bring some of the musculature in the back of our legs online as well. Okay. So from this position, I want you to pull back with your elbows as if you could drag yourself forward and lift your chest, press the top of your head towards the ceiling. And then go ahead and lift your legs. And they might not lift at all, but create the action as if you could lift your legs off the floor. Breathe in here. And as you breathe out, push into your hands, lift your elbows, and tuck your chin like you were trying to go into cat pose. Your feet will probably touch the floor when you do this, but keep that action of lifting. Then with your breath, inhale, elbows down, pull back and lift your chest. And then exhale, push into your hands like you're trying to stretch your mat back, squeeze your glutes. Twice more. Elbows down, pull, lift your legs. Elbows up, push, and stretch back. Good. And then bring your elbows to the floor. Okay. You can lower your belly, widen your elbows, come down, and rest for a moment. All right. Next up, let's take a little respite for your core. Come back up onto your elbows. We're going to do some spinal rolls now that will start to lift us off the floor. Yay. So you're going to begin by pulling your chest forward and just let your shoulders sort of creep up towards your ears. Let this be somewhat passive. And then starting at your head, we'll call this spinal segmentations. You'll begin by dropping your chin towards your chest and then push into your hands and elbows and start to pull your ribs up away from the floor. Then press your knees into the floor, actually lift your pelvis up away from the floor. You'll hear me start to shake. Pull your elbows and your knees towards each other. Draw your tailbone in. And then bring your pelvis down, bring your belly down, bring your ribs down, and come back to that starting position. Okay. Again, so getting up off the floor using a push, you'll drop your head, then push into your elbows, lift your ribs. So you're rounding now your upper back, then your mid back, then your lower back, tailbone draws in, and then take your pelvis down, take your belly down, take your ribs down, and let your head come forward. Do that one more time. Drop your chin, bring your ribs in, roll yourself up onto your knees. Okay, and if you want to progress from here, you can tuck your toes and lift your knees off the floor. And keep this sort of tucked position, but lengthen your spine from your feet all the way through the crown of your head. Hold for 3, 2, 1. Bring your knees down, bring your pelvis down, bring your belly down, bring your ribs down, widen your elbows, and plant yourself back into the deep darkness of the soil. You can turn your feet from side to side, massage your pelvis, and go back. Okay. Let's do a little bit of movement now to start to kind of unwind some of the tensile force in our chest and ultimately use this movement to get us upright. So you're going to bring your arms into sort of a diamond position. So if I had my forehead on my hands, I'm going to unbend my elbows a bit so they're more 90 degrees and bring my hands out in front of me. Now you could rest your head on one side, or you can place your forehead, bridge of your nose on the floor. And from this position, I want you to bend your right knee. Doesn't have to be a deep bend. And then your right hand is going to slide back almost into like a chaturanga position or cobra position. You're going to push off your right hand and roll to the left. Okay, so your right foot's going to reach over probably off of your mat to the left. And there's a nice stretch in the left side of my chest. And then I'll roll back onto my belly. And we're just going to do that a few times. So right knee bends and reaches up and over to the left. You might roll a little further or maybe even lift your left armpit off the floor. And then bring your ribs down and come back down. All these movements, again, there's not like a right or a wrong here. As long as you're in the vicinity, you can explore slightly different options. So if I keep my left side of my ribs on the floor, the movement's a little different. If I let my ribs lift up off the floor, I'm up onto my elbow, almost like I'm now facing the ceiling. And ultimately, we're going to take this almost into a seated position. So let's roll over onto your left side, and this time push down into your left elbow, lift your chest up, and then see if you can push into your left hand and lift your left elbow up. Okay, so here you are upright. Ah, new perspective. Okay, then we'll reverse that. So you'll bend your elbow to the floor and then roll onto your chest. You can catch yourself with your right hand. And try that a few times. See if you can use some momentum. You push off your right hand, lift your left elbow, bring your elbow down, roll onto your belly. Twice more. Push up and down. And last time, go up and come back down. Okay, rest in the center. And just feel the difference between sides. You've no doubt done that many times in your life. That's called rolling to the side and sitting up. Welcome to yoga, where we get to explore the things that we normally do with a bit more awareness and curiosity. Like breath, like movement, like attention. So bring your arms in front of you again, that diamond position. Your right arm will stay in the diamond shape. Left hand goes by your chest. You'll bend your left knee and just roll over onto your right side. And if I'm not thinking about sitting up, I just roll and my right elbow, my shoulder kind of block me. And there's a nice stretch there to be enjoyed. Again, no, it's not a no pain, no gain situation. So go to where you feel sort of the first bit of resistance. And then let that resistance sort of rebound you back onto your belly. And then we'll roll side to side again. And if you want to kind of bypass that resistance, you can do so now by pushing into your elbow and lifting yourself up a little bit. So incrementally, we go from prone, sort of side lying, to seated. And then that push through your right hand might lift your elbow up. Okay, try that a few times. Once more. And then back onto your belly. Okay, moving now to either side, I'd like you to bend your knee, either knee, roll to one side, and sit yourself up. And then go ahead and grab your blanket. We're going to do a little bit of MFR, which is myofascial release, on the fronts of your thighs. So with the blanket rolled up, I'm going to place it perpendicular to the long edge of my mat. Okay, so it's about the width of my mat. And then I'm going to roll myself back onto my belly, but I'll do so now with the blanket underneath my quads. So for me, this actually, I prefer to be up on my elbows, so my abdomen is kind of hovering. If that, for whatever reason, is like too much for you, you can also be down here. It'll put a little bit less pressure on the blanket. Okay? And then all you're going to do is roll a little bit side to side. And yeah, if your quads are anything like mine, you'll get some feedback right away. That roll can move kind of from the inner quad, the more medial part of the quad, towards the lateral part of the quad, almost towards the IT band. And your quads are quite long. They go from your hip joint all the way down to your knees, actually below your knees. So you can kind of slide forward and get a bit more contact and shearing force along the length of your quads. You might find, as I do, that there's often more kind of adhesion or feedback or density down towards the lower part of the quads, but we're all different. So same kind of rolling side to side that we were doing on our belly, now doing it on the blanket roll will give us a little bit more fill in the blank, whatever your experience is. Okay, you could probably do that for a couple hours, but that's all for now. Roll to the side and remove the blanket. And now we're going to take advantage of that territory and add into it some strengthening for your hamstrings. So you could do this up on your elbows just to give you some relief for your lower back. I'm going to recommend doing this with your head resting on your left hand. Okay, so I stretch my legs back. Now I'm going to bend my right knee, and I'm going to reach back with my right hand and grab a hold of my right foot. Okay, so do your best with that. So my right hand is on the inside of my right foot. I'm going to bend my right elbow and pull my right heel towards my butt. Okay. Now, one of the ways that my body is clever and likes to avoid the stretch is by sort of making my right knee heavier and my pelvis lighter. See if you can reverse that. So make your pelvis heavier, press your right side of your hip down and your tailbone down, and make your knee lighter. In fact, you could even lift your knee off the floor. I'm thinking about stretching the front of my right thigh and my right knee away from my pelvis. Now, this is a nice sort of passive stretch. We're going to make this active, and just disclaimer, if you've never done this before, you very well may feel something you haven't felt in a while in the back of your right leg. Okay, that cramping of the hamstring is not necessarily a bad thing. So keep your right heel pulling towards your right hip, and then see if you can release your foot and keep it there. Your right hand can come to the floor. Imagine you were squeezing something between your foot and your butt. Press your tailbone down, hold for 3, 2, and 1. Slowly straighten your right leg, and we'll do the other side. Okay, so you're going to bring your the right side of your face onto your right hand, and then reach back with your left hand and grab your left foot. So start with the passive stretch. Pull your heel towards your butt, stretch your left knee back, press your tailbone down. Enjoy the stretch. And then see if you can keep your heel where it is, but release your foot, and now use the power of your hamstring to pull your heel towards your butt. I'm still thinking about lifting my knee and pressing my tailbone into the floor. And then straighten your left leg. Let's do that one more time each side, just because it's so nice. Reach back with your right hand, grab your right foot, pull your heel towards your butt. If you want to progress the movement, you can prop yourself up onto your left forearm. Almost like a half Sphinx and a half Dhanurasana. I pull my right heel towards my butt. The name of this pose would be Ardha Bekasana. Okay, don't worry so much about the flipped grip of your hand necessarily. If you know it, you can take it. Pull your heel in, press your tailbone down, and then see if you can keep your leg where it is and release your right foot. Okay, your right hand can just go to the floor. I'm pulling back with my hands, squeezing. Okay, embrace the cramp, and then straighten and lower back down. Second side, last time, reach back, left hand grabs left foot. Again, you can do this with your forehead on the floor. You can also do it propped up on your right elbow. Pull your heel towards your outer hip. Stretch back with your left knee. Press your tailbone down. Think about lifting your low belly and your left knee off the floor. And keep your leg there. Release your foot. And hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Release your leg. Lower your head and chest down. Okay, move your pelvis a little side to side. We'll take a little core and low back break in just a moment. But one more movement here, and this might be something, well, as with all this stuff, it may or may not be possible. The attempt is actually just as beneficial as the sort of successful completion of the drill. Meaning, even if you're not able to do all the pieces that I outline here, attempting it will start to develop the strength necessary to kind of sustain these shapes. So your hands are going to go out to the side in a T shape. I'm going to turn my head to the right. Now, like you just did, this time without your hands, you'll bend your right knee and pull your heel towards your butt, and then think about lifting your right knee off the floor. Then slide your right hand in next to your chest. You're going to push and roll over onto your left side. Now, this might be all that you do. Think about moving your left hand and your right foot towards each other. If that's all that you do, great. If you can turn your left palm to face up and grab a hold of the big toe side of your right foot, great. Grab a hold and pull your tailbone in. If you get hold of your foot, you can move your left foot over a little bit, and then your right arm can reach overhead. And then you stretch from your right knee through your right hand. Okay, pull your tailbone in, pull the bow with your left hand, right foot, stretch your right side waist and belly, even float your left foot off the floor. And then without slingshotting, release your foot and return to the center. So it's a pretty big sort of contralateral stretch. This means the two sides of your body are cross patterning. It's a really nice way to open things up and also to kind of connect things back together. But give yourself a moment just to feel how your body absorbs that force. And then we'll do the other side. So your arms will go wide. Turn your head to the right this time. Bend your left knee. As you roll over, your left hand can draw in. So this in and of itself is quite nice. If you want to try closing that chain between your right hand and left foot, you can go for it. It's kind of like, I call these like yoga sobriety tests. Like, can you find your foot with your hand without looking? Fancy way to describe that as like proprioception drills. But Yeah, if you've been drinking too much kombucha, or is there like a Easter cocktail that people drink? Yeah. Anyhow, see what you can manage and then stretch from your left knee through your left hand. Even reach your right foot and your right hand away from each other. Okay, and then release and bring yourself back down. Okay. Good news, we're going to bring ourselves upright again. Our seeds are gathering power and strength to break through the soil. Similar to what we did before, this time with your hands on the floor beside your chest. You're going to do a move in strength training. This is called a Turkish get up, but we'll call it the seeds uprising today. So you'll bend your right knee. My hands are beside my chest. I'm going to, in that same way, roll over onto my left side. This time my right foot will find the floor, and I push off my right hand to sit myself all the way up. Okay, so now I'm sitting upright with my chest and my right thigh closer towards each other. My left hand is in closer. In that same pattern, you're going to reverse it to come back down. So bend your left elbow, sort of brace yourself with your right hand, lower onto your belly, and then the momentum can carry you right over to the other side. Okay? Go side to side this time, rolling and pushing to come up, yielding, roll, push, yield, roll, push. Okay, let's go one more time each side. And the next time that you come up on the right side, so my right knee is bent, my left leg is straight, you're going to pause here. Let's do some work in your shoulders, and we'll do this upright. So let's take a moment, take a breath, acclimate to this change of plane, change of perspective. Okay, so your right hand is going to go across your midline and touch the floor outside of your left knee. Okay, so the right arm is adducted, okay, and we're going to find this sort of pathway through flexion up overhead. I'm going to turn my left foot to the left, so the pinky edge of my left foot is into the floor, and everything that's touching the floor, push it down. Your left foot, your right foot, your left hand, rebound everything else up, your chest specifically. So right arm's going to go up, so your bicep is by your ear, and then as your right arm goes back down, let your spine sort of round and stretch your low back. So let the lift of your right arm pull your chest up, and as your right arm lowers, your spine can sort of follow. Another way to organize that is by following your hand with your eyes. So as your eyes follow your hand, that'll bring your neck into the equation, and your spine will likely follow suit. You can try a few more of these, just a half shoulder circumduction. If you want to add some elevation to the mix, as your right arm lifts, you can push your feet and left hand down and lift your pelvis up. This takes us into the pose Wild Thing. So your body goes up from your left foot through your right hand. There's a big, long contralateral lengthening. Again, you can follow your hand with your eyes, a nice way to kind of organize the movement. I find my upper back gets more of a stretch when I do that. We're going to come onto the other side. So roll through your belly, over onto the left, or to the right rather. I'll turn my right foot out. I'll take my left hand outside of my right knee. So the pinky edge of my right foot pushes down, my right hand pushes down, and with my right hand, I'm making sort of a clockwise twisting action. So I dig my fingertips into the mat and I twist, and that twisting sort of peels the right side of my chest open. So start by just lifting and lowering your left arm. Especially on the lowering action, there's a nice sort of side bend, twist, and a forward bend. I call these closed twists, okay, which lengthens the left side of my low back. You can follow your hand with your eyes. And if you feel inspired, you can start to play with lifting your pelvis up. Ideally, the lift of your pelvis takes your pubic bone a little higher than your right shoulder. At least that's the sense. So really use the power of your legs and your right arm to peel yourself open. Okay, and then let's return onto our belly. This will be our final moment-ish here on our abdomen. Move your legs a little side to side. Okay, we're going to do we're going to explore another pathway to bring us upright into a seated position. As always, I'll talk you through it as best I can. You can always watch first and then try it out if you're getting a little bit cattywampus in your movements. So for this one, my hands are going to go by my chest in let's call this cobra position. And I'm going to bend my right knee like I did before, as if I'm trying to pull my heel towards my sitting bone. Now I'll press my tailbone down and lift my right knee up a little bit. Okay, this time I'll roll a little bit to my left side, not all the way, like I was going to reach the floor with my right foot. But instead of touching the floor, stretch back with your right foot, then draw your right knee towards your right arm and place your right knee on the floor out to the side, like you were going to crawl forward, okay? Or like you were doing, what's the pose? Ekapada Kandanyasana 2 and you fell on your belly. Okay, so from this position, press your feet into the floor, press your tailbone down, and then push into your hands. And as I lift up from this position, I can straighten my left arm, but it takes me into a twist. I look over my right shoulder. So it's sort of like a crawling up dog. So as I charge up my legs and stretch from my left hip through my left shoulder, I push with my left arm, and there's a nice stretch in the front of my left hip. Okay. Then I'll peel myself back down, roll a little bit to the left so I can straighten my right leg and come onto my belly. Second side, bend your left knee, roll to your right a bit, kick your left foot back like you were going to just casually touch your head with your left foot, and then pull your left knee over to the left, place it on the floor, then push into your hands. So here my pelvis does lift, my arms more or less straighten, and I turn my belly to the left. It's like I'm looking over my shoulder at my right foot. Make your right leg really straight and try to push up out of your right shoulder slightly, and then slide yourself back down onto the floor. Okay, we're going to do that again, and this time we're going to take it to seated. So stay with me. Bend your right knee, roll over a little bit, slide your right knee out to the right, press down, and come up. Now, from this position, I want you to look down towards your hands, push into your hands and lift your butt up. So now you're sort of in this crawling position. And then bend your left knee, bring your feet towards each other, and sit back. So you're kind of in a wide-kneed child's pose. Now I get a nice big stretch in the left side of my whole self when I do this. My right knee is off the mat, left knee is on the mat. And then walk your hands back and sit yourself up. Okay. The position I want us to end up in here is sort of in some forms of movement, it's called a shin box. So your right foot's going to come forward. So let's see if you can see me here. So my right foot is touching my left knee, and then my left foot is outside of my left hip. So I'm sort of tilted over onto my right hip like this. Okay. Now from this position, my arms are going to go forward. And I practice getting up now onto my legs. Okay, so if you need to pat up your right knee, you're welcome to do so. So my arms go forward. It's like I'm pulling myself up and thrusting my pelvis forward while my feet push down. There's an inhale. As I exhale, I lean and push into my shins and come up. So press my tailbone forward. And then as I inhale, I come back down. If you need to use your hands, you can use your hands to help you up. Okay, it's totally fine. Just use your hands as much as you need to, or as little. Check that we're still online and thriving here. Okay, good. Okay, one more time. And then bring yourself back down to a seat. Okay, take your right hand back behind you. Actually, I take that back. Reach both of your arms in front of you. And now let's move both of our shoulders. Okay, so you're going to reach your arms up towards the ceiling and stretch. Now, keep your left arm alongside your ear. Turn your right palm out so it's facing the right side of the room. And I'm actually going to recommend that you look up at your right hand and reach back and follow your eyes. Follow your hand with your eyes until your fingertips touch the floor behind you. Okay, then reverse that. Lift your right hand back up and towards the ceiling. Okay, again, take your right hand back behind you and touch the floor, and then bring your hand back up. So just peeling the right side of your chest open. One more time, bring your right hand back behind you. This time, put your hand on the floor, and then push down into the floor with your hand and your feet, and lift yourself up. Stretch your left arm alongside your ear, kind of like that wild thing position now with both knees bent. And then you can lift and lower. So as your pelvis comes down, left hand can go down. As your pelvis goes up, left arm can go up. And once you kind of find the pathway, you can start to make it your own. Maybe it's more fluid. Maybe it's more kind of tensile or rigid. Both options are good options. Okay. And now we're going to find our way to the other side. Let's see if we can get to the other side by reversing the pathway that got us here. So I need to kind of start where I was before. So how do we do that? You're going to reach your arms forward and come up onto your knees. Then your right foot will sort of swing out to the right. Your left foot will swing out to the left. And then you'll lower back down onto your belly and slide your right leg back to home base. Second side, roll to the right a little bit, slide your left knee out to the left, prop yourself up, then lift up onto your knees, bring your feet towards each other under your pelvis and stretch back first. So the right side of your torso lengthens, and then walk your hands back and sit yourself up. Okay, organize your feet. So your left foot goes over towards your right knee, your right foot goes outside of your right hip, and setting up your legs this way will tip your pelvis to the left. That's kind of part of the point. We want our spine to be in this side bend. Okay, so both of your arms will go up towards the ceiling. Oop, I forgot a piece. Let's thrust our arms down, and as we do, lean forward and pick yourself up onto your knees. Press your pelvis forward, and then hips back. So if this feels precarious in your knees, use your hands to help distribute some of that force. And you can completely skip it and just stay in the seated position. So it's a push off the floor to come up, and then a squeeze through the back of our body to lift. Okay, and then bring yourself back down to a seat. Reach your arms in front of you. Stretch both of your arms up towards the ceiling. And then your left arm is going to continue. So if you look up at your left hand, turn your left palm out, reach it back behind you. I'm almost sort of touching the floor with my left fingernails. And then it circles back up, and I untwist. Okay. So I twist to the left hand turns, I reach, touch the floor, and then I come back up. Okay, last time, circle, reach back, touch. Then place your palm on the floor. If you feel so inclined, lift your pelvis and stretch back through your right arm. And then lower your hips back down. And try that a few times. So there's a rooting down, much like the seed has to go down to go up. A rooting down allows us to rise up. This is true of life. It's also true of physics, right? Ground reaction force, as I connect to the earth more solidly and distribute my force into the earth leverages me upright. Okay, to come back onto our belly, you're gonna reach your arms forward. Left leg goes to the left, right leg straightens back behind. I'll lower down, plant yourself once more, rest your head to one side, and just feel the journey that your body's been on so far. Okay, what we're doing here is progressive, meaning we're going to keep going for the last 10 or 15 minutes, but it's not like an all or nothing situation in that if this is all that you were to do, you've done a lot. We're going to come up into an upright position now, moving sagittally or symmetrically. Take your hands underneath your chest or beside your chest. And like we did earlier on our elbows, lift your chest up, come into a little cobra. Then drop your chin, push into your hands, hug your hands towards each other and lift your ribs, lift your belly, lift up onto your knees, come into sort of a cat pose, flex, and then walk your hands back and come into child's pose. And I suspect child's pose will feel, I'm going to say nourishing, provided that it's not too much in your knees and hips. You can also rest your forehead on your hands here. And press into your hands to sit yourself all the way up. Okay, lovely. So, going to move through now some of these positions in the upright position. Okay, so starting with your arms, let's reach your arms up and lower your arms back down. Simple movement, okay? Reach your arms up and lower down. This time as you reach up, follow your hands with your eyes, reach and lower down. And this time follow, reach up, hold. Now turn your right hand out, reach back behind you with your right hand, touch the floor behind you, and come back up. And then left hand, turn, reach back, out behind you, and come back up. Okay, so you're going to do that again. If you have it in you, lift up and tuck your toes so you have a little more support through your feet. Turn your right hand to the right, and now reach back and either tap the floor or you can grab a hold of your right heel with your right hand. Okay. We're going to take some of us a little kind of asymmetrical Ustrasana here. You'll push down into your feet, take your pelvis forward, and reach back with your left arm. Okay, so from my left hip, rather from my left knee through my left hand, there's a big stretch. And then my pelvis comes back down. And right arm goes up. Turn, left hand, reach back, go left hand to left heel, and then push down. Possibly reach up and stretch, and come back down. Left arm goes up. Okay, possibly, one more time. Right hand reaches back, push down, go up, and bring it down. Right arm up, left hand goes back, possibly lift, and come down. Both arms up. Lift, untuck your toes, and lower down. Okay, so you can rest here for a moment, let your arms rest. You can also drop your head. So from a tucked toe position, I'm going to lift my pelvis upright. And now I'll bring my arms out to the side for some balance. I want you to take your right leg forward and place your right foot on the floor in front of you. Then lean yourself forward, put some weight into your right heel, and lift your left knee off the floor. We're going to move from our left foot onto our right foot. So shift your weight back a little bit. Then as you shift forward, exhale, come up and lift your left knee up. Okay. Take your arms towards the ceiling. Reach forward and up. As your arms go up, stretch your left leg back. As your arms go down, pull your left knee forward and curl. Okay, so a little bit of balance here for first time upright all the way. So give yourself a chance to kind of acclimate, even though we're doing some pretty complex movements standing upright. Left leg goes back, arms up, arms go down, left knee rises. Okay, then reach your arms up, take your left leg back, step back, bend your left knee to the floor. Okay, lower your arms, shift back, take your right knee next to your left, and sit back on your heels. Okay, let's do the second side. Push down, come up. This time, my left leg's going to step forward. Okay, I'll lean forward, pick up my right knee. You can shift your weight forward and back a bit, and then launch off your right leg, stand up on your left leg, pull your right knee up, arms go up, and then kick your right heel back like you were going to grab your foot behind you, which won't likely happen. Okay, that's just the direction. Then as your arms lower, your right knee can lift. The right leg goes back, arms go up, arms go down, right knee comes in. So it's a curl, like a standing cat and cow. And then right leg steps back, left leg steps back. Have a seat, let yourself settle. Okay. In the event that things do chop us off at an hour, we'll open a second live and we'll combine. Almost there. Okay. So now we're going to bring ourselves up onto both legs, and we'll come up using a slightly different strategy. So you'll lean onto your hands and then tuck your toes, and this time walk your hands back towards your knees and lift your knees up off the floor. Take your forearms onto your knees, and then as you bring your heels down, you can fold, let your ribs rest on your thighs, and just for a moment, grab a hold of your elbows and hang. Okay, let your spine release, let the back of your head release. Depending on your mobility, your legs can straighten a bit, but keep your ribs touching your thighs. And then release your arms. Rebend your knees, and then slowly press your tailbone down, lift with your low belly, slide your hands up the fronts of your legs, roll yourself up, let your head come up last. Okay, so let's try our full pose here, Natarajasana. We'll try it 2 different ways. Let's take a moment, stand with both feet planted on the floor, and feel the journey that your body has gone through, from prone, sort of crawling, to seated, to kneeling, to upright. Keep your roots planted, and let your heart, your spine rise up. Okay. You're going to shift your weight onto your right leg, and as you inhale, let's lift your left knee up. Good. Now on your exhalation, sweep your arms up and stretch your left leg back behind you. Steady your gaze. Now, like we practiced before, turn your right hand, reach back, and see if you can grab a hold of your left foot with your right hand. Okay? If you have a hold of it, you can kick your foot into your hand. If you don't, just reach, okay, and that's fine. If you have a hold, then pull. So left foot, right hand pulls, and then I stretch from my right leg through my left arm. Same shape we did on the floor, just standing upright now. Then release your foot, take your right arm up, and let's switch. Reach back with your left hand, twist to the left, see if you can grab a hold of your foot here, pull, and stretch your right side. Then lift both arms up, lower both arms down, pull your left knee up, curl in your belly, and set your left foot down. Okay. I want to say well done, but I didn't see you do it, but I'm assuming if you attempted it, then well done. Well done on the attempt. Stand in your left leg. Okay, so right leg's going to come up. Now as I breathe out, I'm going to push down through my left leg, lift my arms up, kick back with my right arm, or my right leg rather. It's like I'm trying to pull my heel towards my butt. Then my left arm swims back and reaches for my right foot. If I can grab hold of the big toe side, I do, and then I pull. Foot and hand together, tailbone curls forward, and I'm reaching through my right side. You could do this pitch more forward if you want. It doesn't really matter to me so much. And then release, both arms up. Keep your right leg behind you. Reach back with your right hand. So you can grab your foot, pull the bow, lift your chest. If you fall, you fall. You get right back up again. And then both arms go up. Pull your knee in, curl your spine, and then both legs down to the floor. All right, you guys, let's make our way back down into the soil, into the earth. Looks like we didn't get savagely cut off, which is good. Thanks for staying with me here. So I'm at the back of my mat. I'm going to place my hands on the fronts of my thighs. I'll lift my chest up, and then I'll hinge with my hips back, slide down. You can kind of roll yourself down back into that forward bend. Grab your elbows again, hang. Hands go to the floor. Walk my hands forward a bit. Control, knees to the floor. Okay, now I'll cross my ankles and bring my legs out in front of me. And now we'll bury ourselves back into the soil, this time on our backs. Okay, so roll yourself onto your spine. So now as you breathe in your back, the feedback is reversed. Back body is supported, front body is open. Let's do a few finishing postures just to unwind some of that in your legs and your lower back. Bend your left knee, place your left on the floor, and then bend your right knee and take your right leg up towards the ceiling. Okay. So I'm going to kick up through my right heel. Okay. And then let's actually hold the back of our right leg. So the right leg will be supported. And just for a few rounds here, you can bend your right knee so heel comes towards your butt, and then you can kick up towards the ceiling. Okay. Bend and kick. Lengthen the back of your right leg after all that. Did some nice hamstring shortening. Now you might try the same movement with your foot pointed. This gives us a slightly different organization of the joints and of the muscles that organize this endeavor. And then straighten your leg up. Keep your leg where it is, but release your hands. Flex your foot again. Now turn your foot out, bend your right knee, put your right ankle on your left knee, and draw your left knee into your chest. Before you grab a hold of your left leg with your hands, push your right ankle into your knee, pull your knee into your chest so your knee kind of wins, but the right leg stays active. And then keeping this a little bit active, hold on to the back of your left hamstrings and use the strength of your arms to assist this curling in. Okay, and then release your left leg, place your left foot on the floor, disconnect your right foot from your knee and kick your heel back up towards the ceiling. Then point your foot and slowly lower your right leg all the way down, control the descent. Now as you bend your right knee and slide your right foot in, you can pull your left knee in towards your chest and kick left heel towards the ceiling. Second side, hold the back of your left leg. And then again, you'll bend and straighten your knee. You can do that with your ankle dorsiflexed. You can do that as well with your ankle plantar flexed or pointed. Both are good. Okay. And then keep your leg where it is, release. Flex your ankle, turn your foot out, bend your knee, and place your left ankle on your right knee. Press your knee and ankle together, and then draw your right knee into your chest. Okay. You can do that first just with the strength of your leg, and feel where that goes, more combination active and passive range of motion, right hip, left hip, but use just the strength of your legs first, and then you can assist with the leverage of your arms. Okay, then bring your right foot to the floor. Take your left leg back up towards the ceiling. Slowly lower your left leg down. Scoot myself back in frame here. And straighten both legs for a moment. We're going to do one last movement here to unwind the back of your body. Let's bend both knees and place both feet on the floor. And then bring your arms down by your side, palms facing down. You're going to press your palms into the floor. And as you press your palms down, draw your knees into your chest. Now push palms down, pull knees to chest, and you might lift your low belly off the low back rather off the floor. So we're going to do a little bit of a roll. Okay, and you can use the sort of swinging of your shins to assist you in rolling back. Okay. So I'm thinking about rolling my knees towards my shoulders. A little bit of core activation finally here just to re-fortify your lumbar spine and your trunk. And for those of you that have the range of motion, as you roll back, if you can get your thighs to touch your ribs, you could straighten your legs and touch the floor with your toes overhead. Not quite halasana, think like a supine Paschimottanasana. Okay, and your hands can stay there, or you could reach back for your ankles or your feet. Alternatively, just bring both of your knees into your chest and hug them in Appanasana. And bring your arms back down beside you. Rebend your knees, control the descent all the way back down onto your spine and your sacrum. Take your feet to the floor and straighten your legs. Give yourself a few moments here now just to both receive and adapt to these movements, some of them new, some of them familiar. You know, one of the ways that the seed is able to blossom and grow is by providing it with ample amounts of water and nutrition, in this case, the nutrition of our movement and our breath, and then letting it be. To rise up is not always an active, forceful endeavor. It can require a sort of passivity sometimes, to plant our seeds and then trust that they will grow. In fact, were we to dig up all of our seeds the moment we planted them to make sure they were growing, they would never grow. So let yourself be planted. Let the floor hold you and support you. And now let yourself be watered by the natural flow of your breath, like the rain, right? I went outside today to water my plants and remembered I don't have to because the clouds watered them yesterday. So the natural rhythms of life, the natural wisdom of your body, and the support of your environment nourish the seed that you are. The language of our cells is felt through force, feeling, experience. Like when you have a really stimulating conversation, even after it's done, it might take some time to still kind of process and upgrade your understanding based on what you experienced. Let your cells process. So I happen to have quite a bit of time to continue this processing and the receiving of the input from my practice. Maybe you do too. I'm going to start to wrap things up. If you would like to stay supine for however long you have available and that is of interest, then by all means. Otherwise, let's start to bring ourselves back online a bit. First through breath, big inhale, big exhale. And I'm not going to tell you how to bring yourself upright, but pay attention to the way that your body grows, the way that this seed that you are starts to bloom and rise up. Perhaps you move to one side, perhaps you root down, maybe you roll yourself up, however it is that you map that journey. And once upright, let's take a deep breath in, full breath out. And bring your palms together in front of your heart. Let your fingertips open a little so your thumb and pinky can be lightly touching, and your middle fingers, rings, index can open like a blossom flower. And hold that flower at the base of your heart. May we remember that the experiences that might sort of pack us down and pressurize us, seemingly limit us, are also the experiences in which we can cultivate the clarity, the restlessness, the fervor, the passion needed to start again, to grow, to blossom, to emerge. Take one sound of Om to finish. Deep breath in. Om. Lift your heart, bow your head. Thank yourself, thank your body. Thank the global community. We might not get to practice together physically, but we are all practicing and in this together. And we all do our part. Every little bit helps. The more we remember our capacity to rise up, the more we can help inspire others to do the same. So thank you for sharing the gift, for being the gift, and for receiving the gift of this practice. Peace. Namaste.